Welcome to Mindshock. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and we are back again with another Flat Earth Live Q&A. The topic that just won't die. One of the most requested topics on the internet. Not just here on Mindshock, but seems to be everywhere. People can't get enough of flat Earth, and we'll be examining that and plenty more Q&A from all of the listeners. As always, if you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help bring back logic and reason to a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast, depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind. I'll leave them in the comment section. Okay, let's see who's in the house already. Dave Scott. First guy here, Christopher Allen, Mr. 1-to-1, FE Nation. Mr. 1-to-1 says, I don't think I've got any flat earth questions that I think you could answer, to be honest. Bruce, I'm just here for the last. Well, try me, buddy. Try me. It's not necessarily about giving an answer if an answer can't be given. It's about the implementation of logic and examining the question and possible argumentation for providing an answer, even if a definitive answer can't be provided. Because this is, after all, Mindshock. That's how we roll here. Denise in the house. Hello. Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting because even with all of the suppressed metrics on Flat Earth, across all major social media platforms. Obviously, Rockfin, Rumble, BitChute, some of those are actually free speech platforms, so I don't think they actively suppress flat Earth searches. But obviously, on the major social media platforms, there's heavy suppression, and yet it's still so popular. I mean, regardless of which side of the fence you fall on, if any side at all. I am, of course, one of the last true fence sitters. This is Mindshock, where I do not claim anything is true or untrue, but what is undeniable is just the popularity of Flat Earth. And in recent times, like the past, I don't know, how long, you guys in the chat, how long have anti-Flat Earth grifters been coming out of the woodwork? People who are dedicating their lives to creating entire channels about anti-flat Earth. So, notice how they're not about teaching the scientific method or logic or reason. They're specifically anti-flat Earth. Like one of these leading Dunning-Kruger champs, Craig from Fight the Flat Earth. It's all right in the name. These guys are just willing to humiliate themselves to these levels. Is there actually an anti-flat earther that's somewhat intelligent? Because it seems like it's the anti-flat earth psyop now. It seems like there's this anti-flat earth psyop. I don't know if the true goal is to increase flat earth membership, of course, just for more strife and discord in the world, so it'll be easier to roll out the New World Order, martial law, etc. Dave Scott says anti has been around since 2017. That I know. Yeah, that's crazy. It seems like the past year or so. There's so many new anti-flat Earth grifters coming out of the woodwork. I guess. Do people think there was some kind of a plan where in front of Congress with all these hearings that resulted in these so-called disclaimers? Think about the desperation. I could put out a video that cars aren't real. The car conspiracy. There's not going to be any flagged content or disclaimers saying, oh, the car conspiracy has been discredited. Obviously, cars are real and they've been proven to exist. On roads, you can go purchase a car. You won't see that. So think about the level of desperation from corrupt establishments to even have these little disclaimers. Yeah, it's really weird. Joseph Roy, Earth is flat. In order to find out, it's imperative that you prove Einstein's theory of relativity, and I'm not making it up, but I am, I'd say, 55% there. Wait, Joseph, are you saying that Einstein's theory of relativity is critical to understanding the shape of the Earth? Because way before Einstein, there were people on both sides. Way after Einstein, there's people on both sides. Mario, fake conspiracies get debunked. NASA can't debunk. So who can? That's a good question. Mr. One to One, flat Earth believers are creationists, but if God is real, why is the globe BS allowed in God's creation? Well, I mean, that's actually a great question. And one could point to the Earth being the devil's domain. That Earth is Satan's domain. So in that case, there's a lot of evil can exist on Earth. Not to mention, most of the globe propagation is by other humans exercising free will, right? Just like evil humans exercise free will in doing all sorts of evil. So if the globe is not a true model and intentionally there to deceive, that would be humans exercising their free will. Johnny Sizzle Chest, salute to you, Bruce, for finally breaking down Matt Walsh with the new system. It was amazing. Yeah. Wow. Matt Walsh really surprised me. I didn't, because he appears relatively logical in most of what I've seen about him. I'm not an expert in Matt Walsh. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen as much Matt Walsh content as Ben Shapiro. It would be interesting to see Shapiro try to break down the moon landing, either in defense of or not. Because didn't Candace Owens kind of say it's an interesting conspiracy? I don't know if she committed to either side, but which is also funny because she's totally grifting in terms of convicting a murderer and shilling for this very same government that she claims lies about everything. So she's an interesting one. She's pretty complex. Joseph, it's the only way, as well as the difference in time zones as well. Are you talking about the only way in terms of relativity? If you haven't checked out the Relativity Debunked podcast here on Mindshock, check that out. Run Z Cow absolutely dismantles it. Ken Wheeler destroys it. And then obviously Jeff Emenko's mathematical equations completely decimate any notion of relativity possibly being true. Sinja 808, can plane surveying measurements be used to falsify curvature given the generally accepted measurements of a spherical Earth? Interesting question. 808, are you in Hawaii? Does Sinja stand for surf ninja? Okay, can plane surveying measurements be used to falsify? It depends on what portion of the plane. But over great distances, possibly, depending on how they're surveying. Because here's the problem. Because on a local scale, regardless of whether the Earth is a flat or a globe, you're still going to have variations in terrain. Are you talking about over water? Because that would be a little bit different. But even still, if you're talking about a lake... See, this is actually a very interesting question. You opened up a can of worms, Sinja 808. You opened up a can of worms because it's a very interesting question. Because you have, obviously, micro and macro, but you have variation, you have degrees of micro and macro in between. So let's say you had a lake or a petri dish, however you want to look at it. If it's an uneven lake and then there's water in the lake, but around the lake you have mountains and uneven terrain. So what would sea level even mean in that situation? So you have all these gradations of micro and macro. So without really knowing the bigger picture, maybe you can't. Maybe you can't because you would have to know. You would have to know the bigger picture. Because look at the graphic I have here right on the screen, the Flat Earth Q&A. So you see how the table, it's kind of convex the Earth. So even if it were flat, that kind of convex, like the water, even if water could bend or curve or whatever, that still wouldn't prove a globe because it depends on the nature of the surrounding terrain. Because what are you comparing sea level to? So that's really what it comes down to. Because let's say there was another table with another Earth, and the tables were uneven relative to each other. Now what? So it really, I mean, without knowing the grand scale, it's actually quite difficult. I mean, that's the whole thing with flat Earth. It's so difficult to really prove anything. And that's what a lot of the scientism cultist goofs, like their mental capacity, I mean, they're just too mentally weak. It's not even about mental capacity. They just have this mental weakness in not, they're just going to a reductive logical fallacy where it must be simple to prove the shape. And it must be a globe if they're globe believers. So that's why reductive logical fallacies are logical fallacies. You can't just reduce all these potential variables and hallucinate they can't exist. So yeah, Sinja 808 opened up a can of worms there. But that was a great question, though, because that's a really good point. That's why the claimed reciprocal zenith angles to prove a globe, that all doesn't work. Because you would have to know a lot more information. Dave Scott, have you heard from hashtag Maxwell lately? No. Maxwell and JR appear to be MIA. But Professor J. Smith has been, we're going to release another episode on the communication transmission from the alleged moon landing. And we're going to be dissecting that deep. That should be coming out hopefully by the end of the weekend. Mr. One-to-One, why don't boats fall off? I'm joking, they probably do. Enough go missing. So, I mean, that's a good point, Mr. One-to-One. A lot of boats do go missing, more than zero. And, of course, if there are gaps, if you haven't checked out the Antarctica podcast that I did, the deep dive into Antarctica, if Atlantis is just these concentric circles or walls of ice with possible gaps in them, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's one of the silliest things. Where's the edge? Who said there's an edge? I mean, it's just so weird, these clueless false dichotomy fallacies. You'd think by now, with the amount of flat earth content out there, you would think by now, I mean, year one, sure. I mean, that was still silly in year one of the flat earth rollout. By the way, I do have a flat earth history podcast coming out where we're going to be examining the modern, what do they call it? They call it let the cat out of the bag. Is that what Eric Dubé had called it? When they, the powers that be, chose to let the cat out of the bag? That was one of the theories, right? That it's not an accidental rollout. Kill the bank. Hello, just stopped in between classes. Hope all is well. We're always having fun here on Mindshock. Pinto Sack said Maxwell's on his way to the ice wall. That'd be crazy. Joseph, the whole thing, I understand that people are entitled to their own opinions. I have what I believe is tangible proof. I have walked across the U.S.-Russia border. What do you mean you walked across the U.S.-Russia border? You walked across the Bering Strait? Wait, what? You're going to have to expand on that, Joseph. Pinto Sack said, because instead of an edge, there's probably more land beyond Antarctica, or more concentric circles of water and ice walls and possible other continents, yes. Mr. Wonderwood, I think the Earth is whatever you believe it to be, so it's flat and a globe, but at the same time it's neither. Uh-oh. Are we going to holographic simulation matrix theory, where everybody's collective thoughts create reality? If this is all some kind of simulated computer reality, that'd be crazy. So the Earth is whatever the most amount of people believe it is. Mr. One to One says, I'm a simulation earther, by the way, so I think all is possible within the simulation. Joseph says, I believe that initially it was the moon that was originally the globe. Look at the moon and look as you walk. The one issue I have is how boats randomly appear coming in yet are watchable going out. Does anybody in the chat want to respond to Joseph here? I'm not 100% sure exactly what he's talking about. You believe the Earth, initially it was the moon that was originally the globe. What does that mean? Look at the moon and look as you walk. Are you talking about the reflections of the continents in the moon? That's a fascinating topic. I'm going to be doing a podcast on that as well. Good Tims for all. How do all? Welcome. Justin in here. Water needs containment, and Antarctica is the shoreline, nothing falling off. Mr. One to One, yeah, why don't boats fall off? People think they would tell you that they fell off, really? Okay, so that was literal, Joseph Roy. During the Iditarod, you crossed the U.S.-Russia border. Still not quite following. On water, you crossed... Mr. One to One, moon map is a reflection. Yeah, that Bruce. Dan the Waterman in here. Welcome, Dan. Total internal reflection is not the same as refraction, and the bottom-up obstruction is not curvature of the Earth. Yeah, it's weird how many people never heard of waves. I mean, waves obscure the bottom of a boat or kayak 2 feet in front of you, and yet somehow magically they wouldn't do that on a much larger scale the further you go out into the ocean, where waves are 11 to 30 feet on average. It's a weird thing. I mean, some of these people, like, how do people not hear about waves, the existence of waves? Not to mention, obviously, true horizon versus apparent horizon. I mean, these are all basics that really have nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. But it's just so weird how supposed academics, supposedly intelligent globe earthers, like, they can't comprehend those very basic points. Not that that proves a flat Earth, but they just can't grasp it. It's weird. Diffraction explains why things appear to go over and come back from visibility. Look into Raleigh's criterion. I've seen the videos on the moon map. Has anyone taken the time to double check Pinto Sack? Yes. So you know what's weird, Pinto Sack? I didn't think that specifically, but in studying the moon over many years, I used to have a really high-powered pair of binoculars. I appear to have lost them. I gotta get another pair. I always kind of thought, not that there was a reflection of Earth, but it seemed to me like it was another world with continents with great variation, unlike all of the alleged videos and photos of the moon. It just doesn't match what you see with your eyes. So, not that I really thought anything of it. Those were just random musings. I didn't connect it to anything. But when I first saw people actually doing the continental overlays, actually, do you want me to pull it up right now? Is that what you guys want to go to? If you guys want to go to the moon reflection, we can do a little bit of that right now, if everybody wants to do that. Kill the Bank says, if I were taught from birth that Earth was level and not moving, there would be no way someone would convince me that the Earth... That's an interesting point, that the Earth was a sphere orbiting and spinning. That is interesting, Kill the Bank. That actually is interesting. If you had many, many years, all throughout the formative years, if that's what people were taught, how would someone convince the... Yeah, that's a good point. Joseph Roy says, horizon, people who originally made the distinction, you walk flat, and looking at the moon looks like the globe. I apologize if I'm riled up. I just returned from a W zone, frozen Bering Strait. Oh, you walked across the frozen Bering Strait? I actually didn't know that enough of it that you could do that in modern times anyway. No need to apologize. I was just trying to figure out exactly what you said. Are you saying the moon looks spherical? Because I don't see that. You also have to factor, coincidentally, the moon supposedly rotates magically the perfect amount so we would never see the dark side. And it's magically the exact size and distance in order to appear to line up to the degree during eclipses. That's a big one. I mean, the coincidence theorists, I mean, for that to be, if space is infinite, and there are infinite or near infinite moons and stars and celestial bodies, planetary bodies, whatever. Think about the like what are the statistical likelihoods that the moon is the perfect size, smaller, and distance from the sun to line up perfectly to the degree? I mean, think about it. That's like randomly throwing golf balls or basketballs or volleyballs or beach balls into the air at different distances, and you just happen to look at it and they line up the same size. I mean, that's just ludicrous. I mean, I'm gonna appeal to incredulity. I mean, that's just bonker. That's like saying you're gonna win the lottery every single day for the rest of your life. The same person. I think the record for the same person winning like a super big lottery, I think twice in one lifetime. I think. Let me double check that real quick. I don't want to say something inaccurate. Oh wow. This is weird. So this is a small lottery. So obviously a Virginia man wins lottery 24 times in a row using a consecutive number. So he won $120,000 after his lottery ticket numbers hit 24 times in one. Well, it was one drawing, and it picked 24 in one. So that's not the same thing. Okay, here we go. Stefan Mandel won the lottery 14 times. He was a mathematician, so maybe this isn't random. He was a Romanian Australian economist who won the lottery 14 times. And you're 4 times as likely to be struck by lightning than to win the lottery. There was also that one guy who got struck by lightning a whole bunch of times. So, I mean, there are variations here, but nobody's getting struck by lightning every single day for their whole life. Nobody's winning the lottery every single day of their whole life. And yet, the claim that the Earth's moon just happens to be the perfect size, smaller, and the perfect distance from the sun to line up to a degree, not approximately, during eclipses. I mean, that's crazy. Obviously, if they're non-physical objects, that could make sense as well. Gleam in the house here. I just had the same argument on Tunes. Are you talking about McToon? One of the Dunning-Kruger champs, or in the running. Sextant vid, where I was told 1 meter waves do not block 1 meter of boat when you pull a camera. Wait, what? I mean, it would obviously depend on what's the difference, but yeah. That's wow, yeah. I mean, Mick Toon's another one of these mentally disabled. I mean, is it possible he doesn't have a mental disability? It's like the arguments he uses are just so. I mean, the average NPC on the street who believes in globe Earth would never use arguments as dumb as Mick Toon or Craig or any of these other anti-flat Earth goofs. Pinto Sack wants to do the moon reflection. We'll do it in a second. Everybody wants to see it. Okay, hold on. Hold your horses, people. If you believe the boats are going over a curve, watch them when buildings are in the background. Are the buildings leaning? No, they aren't. Yeah, that's actually an interesting one, Dan McD. So, when I don't remember the exact year when I saw the first Flat Earth video, probably around 2015. One of the arguments used is that buildings should be leaning on a sphere, but the problem with that argument, that depending on the size of the sphere, the buildings would have to be quite a bit larger. They would have to be quite a bit taller in order to notice the lean. I haven't done an actual model simulation of the exact amount, But again, just think about if the Earth really is a globe and it's at least 25,000 miles in circumference, the angle of the building should be, it would have to be a much taller building to notice the angle, but it should be noticeable, yes. And then obviously, once you get into the infrared, then it gets tricky because over a greater distance, even a smaller building could possibly have an observable angle of tilt. But again, I mean, I mean, I don't know. Has anybody done that in Dubai? Is the tallest building in Dubai? Yeah, it looks like the Burj Khalifa is the tallest building. 2,717 feet. That might be tall enough. So we would, if we had some infrared drone footage of that, that might be tall enough. 2020. Well, actually, that might not be tall enough either. I don't know. Has anybody done an actual model simulation? Mr. One-to-One, the dark side faces us a lot of the time, but it's the same side. The other side is what they should call it. Sinja 808, how can so many experts and practitioners in their respective fields, like surveying, disagree on the subject? What discipline has a definitive decision on the same? See, here's the thing. None, really, Sinja 808. Because, I mean, I would say, infrared, long-range infrared might be the only one. Because even pilots flying around, would they, unless they're doing extreme, see, okay. It depends on where they fly, because some of these fighter jet pilots going at multiple times the multiple speed of sound, Mach whatever. I mean, some of those top secret ones they're flying way over Mach 3 or 4. I mean, the next gen fighter jets. If they chose to do a longitudinal circumnavigation, then they would know. But it seems, again, based on public information, like if they're going from the U.S. to the Middle East, they wouldn't be in a position to know, right? So what fields would be in a position to know? Because a lot of this stuff would work on either model, and if you're not specifically looking to, because in all of these fields, how many of these so-called experts are specifically looking to determine the shape of the Earth as opposed to just building a bridge? Because, there is some conflicting information, because even some engineers claimed to have taken account the curvature. On other projects just as long, they say they didn't. So clearly, it's almost like it doesn't matter either way, because it would work either way. Think about even like laying train tracks. Like, how long is a single piece of track? It wouldn't matter. You wouldn't know the difference unless you had a single piece of track that was miles and miles long. And even then, again, going back to the micro-macro terrain differences, you still wouldn't know, because even on a flat Earth, relatively flat, there would still be gradation differences in the terrain, so it still wouldn't prove. So that's actually what's so interesting about the entire topic. But yeah, fighter jets traveling at multiple times the speed of sound, if they were to try to do longitudinal circumnavigations, they could solve that right quick, too. Justin says lottery is rigged, inside jobs. Wow. Is it time for a lottery conspiracy? I've actually heard some stories about certain lotteries. I didn't know they were, I don't know if they're all rigged, though. Thank you, Joseph, for the super chat. I'm not stirring the pot. I've been in a place where no one wants to be. Where are you talking about specifically? Is that metaphorically or physically or both? So you've been in Alaska and over the Bering Strait. Did you see anything weird there? What's up with the pyramid in Alaska? Supposedly there's a black pyramid in Alaska. I was going to do a podcast on that as well. Sinja 808's coming up with some great questions here. Gleam, if you select every single number available across multiple cards, then you are guaranteed to hit all numbers on the same ticket. It increases your chances by 8. Joseph, a Warzone, it's more of a round shape than the ground we see. April 8th or 4/8, 2024, solar eclipse, and pay attention to Papua New Guinea, and asteroids will soon land in Wisdom Lake and surrounding lakes. I don't lie. Wait, 4/8, 2024, solar eclipse. Papua New Guinea. I haven't heard anybody mention Papua New Guinea in quite some time. Supposedly that's where cannibals are. They had some kind of renaissance, didn't they, in the 70s? Some development, and then I don't know whatever happened with that. Hadn't been in the news in quite a while. There was also supposedly some kind of AIDS situation over there. I don't know if that was all manufactured. Again, this is Mindshock. I don't claim anything is true or untrue. Boggin says, I'm just waiting for the coincidence theorists. No shortage of those. Real Offended said, I brought your name up in my 2 debates with Craig. He definitely lost his mind. Yeah, I mean his logic allergy seems to be quite severe. I mean, I don't know how you guys do it. Like, I don't know how you can actually handle interacting with a guy either that deficient or pretending to be that deficient. I mean, I don't know. What is your impression, Real Offended? Do you think he's just this phenomenal actor who can go full retard convincingly or can go full vegetable convincingly? Or is he genuinely that deficient? Jules says, if I was never told about the Earth being a globe, what reasons would I have to doubt that my reality is not what my senses tell me? I mean, nothing. I mean, I mean, I got nothing there, Jules. I got nothing there for you. Because you don't. You wouldn't. You really wouldn't, other than authorities claiming things. We need to get. Obviously, jet fighter pilots are not allowed to just fly off course, obviously invading other airspace or whatever. Now, the top secret next gen fighters that might not be showing up on radar, I wonder if any. I would think those pilots wouldn't just be doing joyrides wherever they want, but it would be curious if one of those pilots was, I don't know, what does Mark Sargent called it? Flat curious or something like that? Flat Earth curious? And he just went off, he just tried to do a longitudinal circumnavigation. I mean, what would happen? Because if it's a flat plane with concentric circles like the Atlantis model, would he just go so far out to other continents, but then would he have enough fuel to get back? What would happen? And they would know he was going off radar, or where he was going on the radar, unless the radar has some kind of a limitation the farther you go out beyond the supposed ice wall. That would be a good movie idea, wouldn't it? Some kind of pilot who watches, jet fighter pilot who watched a bunch of flat Earth videos and got curious. Yes, J Tolan Media has some. Yeah, the infrared. I like the infrared stuff. It seems I don't see any of these anti-flat Earth grifters talking about the infrared. I guess they just kind of pretend it's just nonsense. I guess that's their only cope with that. Real Offended says, I think he's definitely acting. Interesting. Interesting. So you don't believe he's legitimately mentally disabled? Nobody can be that dumb for real. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Again, I don't know the guy personally. I don't know if he's ever had a psychiatric evaluation. I mean, I don't know what his deal is. But yeah, if he's this phenomenal actor, I mean, maybe. Boggin said, "I'm jet lagged every summer. I'm gonna do it this summer." Are you a fighter pilot? Boggin says, "I live at the Arctic Circle in northern Sweden. I can testify to the midnight sun circling around me in our summer." Oh, we got a lot of messages pouring in here. I'll try to catch up as quickly as possible. Real Offended says, "Craig's story is you of all people don't know anything about fallacy." Well, yeah, that's what's funny is Craig has to pretend that I'm making these definitions, which anybody can check in any dictionary or encyclopedia or academic or college website. Yeah, that's a weird cope. I mean, it's. I mean, it's also a lazy cope. You'd think some of these guys could come up with a cope that wasn't so lazy. Boggin says Craig hasn't even a mind to lose. Oh man. Boggin says he's a coincidence theorist on steroids. Well, maybe steroids that got swapped out with estrogen instead of testosterone based elements. But Mr. Wonder One said Craig tied his shoelace live just to prove he can. You know what's funny about that video? It looks like someone's off screen trying to help him out because he glances past the camera in that video. Dave Scott says flying at top speed in the SR-71 Black Hawk would have to dip its nose 800 feet per second. Well, here's the thing. It depends on its elevation, right? Because flat or globe, there would still be a lot of terrain deviation. I mean, think about this. If a high-speed plane is flying extremely close to the ground, it would actually have to tilt up. It would have to go up to clear mountains or terrain. But that doesn't mean, unless we get the concave earthers in here. Are there any concave earthers in here? Concave Earth hasn't been talked about in a while, but that doesn't mean the Earth is concave just because you're going up. So it wouldn't necessarily mean it's a globe to dip down unless you're at an extremely high altitude. Mr. Wonder One, there's a video of the lottery numbers shown on screen before they come out. The machine and the host is like WTF. Wow, do I really have to start researching the lotteries? Joseph Roy says, physically war zone Alaska several times 2019 last year. You talking about war zones like active military war zones, like in the Middle East or somewhere? Justin says, lurking and working here. How dare you have this stream while I'm working? I try to space them out. So I didn't. I think the last one was later in the day or evening for most people, and there were some people complaining. So I tried to do this one a little earlier. I'll try to do different streams at different times just so I can get all the Mindshock listeners involved, regardless of where they live. Justin Johnson says, asteroids are a hoax. You talking about the game? That game is no hoax. Asteroids is a phenomenal game. I used to play that all the time. How dare you? Blasphemy. Asteroids is a phenomenal game. Joseph says it was a false flag and it had no COVID cases or very few, if any, even though it was a planned out. Are you talking about Alaska? Man, a lot of comments coming in. I'm trying to get to every single one. Can you guys pause for a second so I can catch up? Alien Big Cat 23 says Earth is a cube like Saturn discussed. Wow. Wow, Alien Big Cat 23 going there. Boggin says Earth is all there is, the basement of the universe. So you don't believe in the Norse model of the universe, the Norse cosmology, where there are different levels, and Earth is one of them? Mr. One to One says we need an airship. Yeah. Joseph says defense, MA to FL, FL to Camp Pendleton and San Diego. I have to watch what I say as I am risking too much. Real Offended. I always wonder why nobody's made a movie about it, at least as a distraction. There was a movie about flat. So I don't remember the name of the movie. 2015, when all the flat Earth content started first coming out, there was a clip from some kind of low budget. It wasn't even that low budget. It was like it was an indie movie. It wasn't like Blair Witch garbage low budget student film. It looked professional. It was like a professional, almost like a TV movie grade, like nothing, nothing high level nothing like a high level blockbuster, but some kind of basic TV movie grade where it was about the flat Earth deception. You guys might know what it is. I haven't seen. You just reminded me about that. I haven't seen clips of that in years. Nobody's brought that up in years, but year one or two of the flat Earth originally going viral on the internet, there were clips from that. Real Offended says he's cool as hell off camera. We were smoking weed and having a great conversation. Wait, are you talking about Craig? Who are you talking about? So he's saying he's just this phenomenal actor. As soon as the camera is on, different guy. Jules says, check out the star in a jar experiment where a bubble in jar of water is hot by a sound wave and looks just like a star. Interesting. Real Offended says, I second that, bring back airships. Yeah, you know what? That's another Tartaria theory, right? Supposedly airships were popular, quite popular. Is it possible they were traveling to the lands in Antarctica as well, and how would we ever know? That's definitely that's another topic for a podcast. I gotta get on that. Man, we gotta have Real Offended. You gotta stop in more often. Got a lot of ideas here. Pinto Sack, if you're going west to east and are going straight on the globe model, on the flat Earth model, you are technically going on a curve. What do you mean going? You talking about air travel? I mean, what are you talking about? Going east and are going straight west to east. Maybe, depending on, in reference to what? The North Pole? Boggin says, Hindenburg was a psyop to demonize hydrogen in airships. You know what's weird? I mean, yeah, I've seen that. You know what's weird, though? No matter how many 747s crash, people will still continue flying. Isn't that weird? Or look at car accidents, one of the leading causes of death. You would think car travel would be more demonized, because obviously airships are way safer than car travel. GA, has anyone watched The Day After lately? Okay, are you talking about The Day After or The Day After Tomorrow? Okay, there's The Day After television film, which I'm not sure I've even seen. It's the 83 television film. I'm sure I remember the beginning of it. I don't think I watched it all the way through. Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about Day After Tomorrow? Because I probably saw that a couple of years ago. Justin says, either model you are curving around. Man, you guys are commenting so fast. I need a bigger TV. I need a bigger screen so I could see more of these comments at the same time without scrolling, because it jumps around on scrolling. Alien Big Cat 23, convex Earth. Well, isn't the Earth convex regardless of globe or flat? And concave Earth would be the dissenting model from convexity. Dave Scott says the Earth isn't flat, it's bumpy. Jules says Craig is just purposely dishonest because he can't possibly be wrong. That's why he tries to have an... Yeah, the narcissism is obviously off the charts, but it's a weird combination. It's almost like mental disability plus narcissism because, I mean, again, maybe that's my appeal to incredulity fallacy myself. I don't know. Okay, Justin was saying to maintain altitude relative to the ground, it would have to dip. Yes. Joseph Roy talking about Papua New Guinea. Is there anything specifically you want to say about that? Robert Kelly, thank you for the work you do. Absolutely. Logic and reason is the only thing that could seemingly save this world. And of course, and compassion. I would say logic, reason, and compassion. You miss the compassion, and and you could even work in a sense of humor. Because imagine not having a sense of humor. Because how would it would just be way too dark. I know a lot of people get triggered by having a sense of humor on certain topics, but Boggin said they hijacked how we see excluded perspective for the stars and took the celestial sphere and called it Earth curve. Lucky Haskin says the bottom line after 10 years of looking at it, the globe has only fake space. That is the only proof of the globe. And the scientism guys call that verifiable science because it's on TV. It's on the idiot box. How can you... Lucky Haskins, are you doubting the idiot box? Has the idiot box ever been wrong? Has the mainstream ever been wrong at about a single thing? I mean, what's the track record between the cult of authority worship, the powers that be, and the quacky conspiracy theorists? I mean, it's a blowout on the scoreboard. Obviously, I'm not going to say in which direction because this is YouTube, but... Boggin says, you need to put out your streams in advance because I never get notified unless I go to your channel and check if you're going live. Yeah, that seems to be an issue for a lot of people. But for some people, it's not an issue. So I have no idea. It's YouTube algos being weird. A lot of times I'm actually not sure what I have literally several hundred podcasts in the works. So sometimes I'm a little spontaneous with some of them. Joseph says, if you use common sense, around 26 countries don't use daylight savings time. I don't want to mention 9/11, but I am interested in someone who can prove that they weren't aware before it happened. To prove that they weren't aware by someone, are you talking about a specific person? Oh wow, Real Offended meant Craig. So Real Offended is saying that Craig is really cool off camera. That he's just, apparently he's a genius actor. I mean, that was one of my theories. Is he the only guy that can pull off going full retard? Joseph says 10% of what we think is a psyop is reality. Yes, Real Offended, the car accident. Yep. They demonized airship travel with one crash, or maybe there were a couple of crashes, whatever, and yet someone's dying, what, every minute? Let's look that up. I think every 8 seconds there's a crash. So people die every day. Wow. in 2016, 37,461 people died in just the U.S. alone. So you have tens of yeah, that's many, many people per day. Good thing there are all those laws about seatbelts. This is crazy. Yeah. And they're demonizing airship travel, which is so much safer. Mario says a retired Air Force pilot claims that radar disproves curvature. Radar shows flat for 80 miles. Yeah, that's interesting. I was doing some basic research into radar. So, depending on the radar system, again, I'm actually not well versed in all the different systems, but it can map out a curved surface and show it flat. Joseph said, Matt Graves is a good associate who is educated in said subject. Which subject? There's a lot of people commenting on a lot of different subjects. Harmon Walker says, if you go back to 2015 and look at all these British guys, they're anti-flat earthers, they honestly look mentally handicapped. No joke. Well, look, sound, behave as, yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no shortage of American anti-flat earthers who appear mentally handicapped as well. Real Offended said, at the end of my second debate with Craig, I told him that I finally figured out that he was really on the flat side, but debates terribly so we look better and the info gets out. He brushed it off, so I told him I would let it go and not blow his cover. He literally did not even acknowledge it. That's curious. That's curious. Now, under which circumstances would he acknowledge it? So, is he just that mentally disabled he didn't even understand what you were getting at? Because I've seen a few instances, well, more than a few. He doesn't understand what is being said. So his only copes are to either ignore or strawman and pretend something else was said, or non sequitur and start ranting about something else. Joseph says, location is meant for the most that people believe are close to impossible. Just look at the instances of Papua New Guinea. 3 months ago, an asteroid landed in a lake of the rarest of kinds. Yeah, I mean, it looks like last year, yeah, there was also some kind of issue with Harvard. Because I just looked up the Papua New Guinea asteroid crash. Apparently, there are issues with authorities. Scientists claim recovered fragments may belong to alien spacecraft. Interesting. And by alien craft, do they mean from the lands beyond the ice wall of Antarctica? Because if there are all these other continents with possibly somewhat more advanced civilizations, Real Offended says, amen for compassion and a sense of humor. That's why I'm real offended. Anyone can say whatever they want to me. As long as it's funny, I'll definitely laugh. Yeah, I mean, only insecure, triggered goofs are gonna, have responses like Craig's, where he just has meltdowns. But again, if he's all acting, I mean, it's I don't know. Mr. One-to-One says cars kill a lot more than guns do. Michigan State Police said 25% of accidents are pot related. That means we could prevent 75% of the wrecks by handing out joints. What? Lucky Haskins. You know what's weird though? I mean, all of those stats are kind of fallacious because there are certain people. I mean, there are people who could actually drive drunk safer than others who are sober, because everybody's different, everybody has different competency levels. Yeah, apparently Craig never got that memo about not going full retard. Heracles says, has anyone mentioned that Shane derived the radius and circumference through our 1 arc minute vision and Raleigh's criteria? Shane? Who's Shane? Mr. One-to-One, what about hot air balloons? Are they banned? Because with a big drone, that would be the same as an airship, sir, surely. Hot air balloons are not banned, but again, airspace regulations, you can't just fly your own hot air balloon around. That'd be cool, though. Can you imagine, like, in a free world, obviously, like 100 years ago, maybe, you could do that? I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling, mind-shocking, if you will, just to imagine the level of freedom they had 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, before all the corporatist and statist regulations and licensings and all that nonsense. I mean, think about how cool it was if this part of history is true. Like, imagine you're the Wright brothers and you're just testing aircraft. I mean, how cool is that? Now you got the FAA and all these statist government corrupt institutions just suppressing freedom left and right. Mark Sargent in the house. Long live Flat Earth. Sorry, just got here. Yeah, Mark, I actually emailed you. We were trying to coordinate a time for a call. I got to interview Mark Sargent. He's one of the most requested guests for Mindshock. Justin says Bruce is a closet flat earther. I don't claim anything is true or untrue. I mean, as I've stated many times, the Earth could be something that the human mind can't even comprehend. So I'm not into putting things in boxes, obviously. That's why this is Mindshock. Denise says, you have more time in a plane going down knowing you are going to die, whereas in a car you are dead without knowing it's coming. That's a great point, Denise. Not always, but because some car accidents there are split-second decisions that could save your life. But in certain cases, yes, you have split seconds, whereas in a plane, if it starts to spiral or an engine fails, you do have a certain amount of time to either attempt an emergency landing or eject, or, have a parachute jump out. So yeah, that's a great point. Mark Sargent, another quality AI thumb, like it. The giveaway is all the guys with perfect beards look the same. You really look that closely to examine the beards of all these guys. Hold on. I didn't even look that close. Yeah, there should be more beard there should be more beard diversity. Goatees, soul patches. Yeah, the AI really needs to get on the soul patch train. Maybe some mutton chops. We need to bring back mutton chops. Those are pretty legit. Joseph Roy, guess where I work? Out of extreme heat, out of very high. Wait, you work in Papua New Guinea? Real Offended says, is there a reason a lot of people think Sargent is a shill? I haven't seen any evidence, but some people seem to be certain. Is it to marginalize him because he's not rude and obnoxious like me? I don't know. I think people just don't understand that Mark Sargent actually used to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, you used to be a professional software instructor of some kind. So you had a lot of experience in public speaking and going over both complex and basic topics in terms of instructing software use. I think that's the reason, because he's very well spoken. People think he's shilling because of that. I would have to guess that. I don't know. Kurtzvid says, I enjoy how you were a flat cider, but torment gloofs with impartiality. Gloofs are that? Does that mean globe, earth, or goof? Is that what a gloof is? Ah, Heracles. Bruce Shane is with ether cosmology. Yes, the ether. I do have a podcast coming up on ether. I've been studying ether for a pretty long time as well. Mark Sargent says the shill sticker was slapped on me by Eric Dubay back in 2015. He got traction with it, so never backed off. Eric slapped most. Is there anybody who Eric didn't slap with the shill sticker? Maybe Eddie Bravo, maybe the only guy that Eddie, and maybe Dubay did slap him with that. I don't know. Boggin says we live in an open world prison. I don't like the word prison. So okay, hold on a second. What does Oh man, what's the definition of paradise? Let me. Does that mean enclosed park? Let me double check the etymology there. Yeah. So apparently, Greek paradisos, a royal enclosed park, an enclosure. That's interesting. Paradise is an enclosure, an enclosed park. So I think, again, maybe just the occult duology in mind that, you know, heaven can be a place on earth or it can be a hellacious prison based on your own thoughts. So if paradise is simply an enclosed park, it could be an enclosed park of whatever nature you make it. Maybe I'm just more of an optimist than a pessimist. I don't know. Real Offended said, how many drones would it take to dart toward the ice wall to guarantee one gets through? So if they do have some kind of, I would assume, if there are all these secret bases in Antarctica, I would assume they have some pretty high level military and precautionary measures to make sure that no civilian drones would ever get through. But who knows? I mean, maybe they also don't count on anybody trying. I don't know. Maybe if they're small enough, it won't get picked up. I mean, I don't know. Heracles says Mark could be a medalist contender in the Logic Olympics. Yes, I am starting a Logic Olympics stream because a lot of people over the years wanted some kind of, because I do have videos on logical fallacies, how to what they are, how to avoid them, etc. But I think a more interactive presentation would help people learn more, especially younger people or people that just haven't spent any time on it. Maybe hopelessly indoctrinated quackademic goofs who are looking to remedy their deficiency in logic and reason. And there's no prep time, so this is not going to be who can memorize the best. Because just because you memorize what a logical fallacy is doesn't mean you truly understand it or can argue without utilizing fallacies or relying on fallacies. So it will be no prep topic, so you have no idea what the topic will be. And we'll probably start that next week. So I'll put some basic stuff on the screen, but in general, anybody in the chat will be allowed to participate, and we'll see who can make non-fallacious arguments for any topic, specifically topics you don't believe in, because just the level of narcissism in so-called modern communication and interacting on all podcasts, mainstream media, it's weird. But to be able to effectively argue something you don't even believe in, I mean, you want to develop logic, that's a great way to do it. Richie Rock says, if we could eliminate... Man, so many comments. It looks like there's only 40 some people in here, but you guys are chatty. You guys are chatty. Richie Rock says, if we can get rid of the elite, we would have unlimited technology. By elite, I'm assuming you mean the powers that be, the parasitic scum that exploit the common man and humanity. ENGSJ says, Mindshock, before you talk to Mark, make sure you watch all the Flat Earth clues that he made, please. I've seen a ton of Flat Earth content, actually. I don't know if you... Have you seen some of my other podcasts on Flat Earth, ENGSJ? I'm actually going to be asking Mark some questions nobody's asked him before. Uh-oh, is that a spoiler? I've seen a lot of Mark's interviews. They're actually really fun to watch because he's so polite, and a lot of people are just assume he doesn't know it. He's just a moron, and they just get absolutely decimated in a polite fashion because that's what Mark does so well. He can politely destroy people, which makes it funny. That's one of the reasons I enjoy his interviews. Heracles says, I thought about the drone idea. The problem I see is range. Yeah, we would need to develop some kind of custom drones with much longer ranges, and they would have to operate on see, if it's like a DJI drone or something, those are very determined. It's geofenced, and even if you hack the geofencing and jailbreak it or whatever, it's still going to operate on their frequency bands. So they'll be easily tracked. You'd have to come up with something custom that nobody else is using. And even then, I don't know if that would work, just because no doubt if Antarctica is that, I mean, if there is a vast conspiracy, I mean, no doubt they'll be watching it very closely. Mark said, yes, I trained people in proprietary software for years, but I also played video games for a living, so I think it evens out. Eddie Bravo and ODD were immune from the shill sticker. I've seen ODD labeled with the shill sticker. I don't know. Yeah, I guess not Eric Dubé. I forget. I totally forgot about ODD. He was pretty big at one point. I totally forgot about him. Is he still... What's he doing? Does he do podcasts? Finn Hagen says, we're being farmed, not imprisoned. Yes, interesting take there. Justin says, I don't think a shill would have woke so many people and exposed the globalists. Here's my argument for Alex Jones being a shill. If you haven't heard my Alex Jones podcast, this is one of my theories. Alex Jones, maybe he started off as not as a shill, then he became a shill. Then he was a rogue shill. So he was pretending to be a shill. He was a shill gone rogue because he was embarrassed and humiliated by what he was forced to do, either paid off or otherwise. And then he went rogue. But now that he's back, uncanceled, I mean, who knows? Maybe he's back to being a shill. That was just one of the theories. I don't claim anything is true or untrue, of course. The motto here on Mindshock is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Okay, we are going to Mindshock Land with Joseph Roy here. He says, are you aware of Site 512? That was where I may have been, and we use microwaves for food, and I suggest you research the microwave. I've never trusted microwaves. Mutated food? I don't know. So, Site 512, is that the one in Israel? I would also be skeptical of anything in Israel. Some people call it Israel. Some people call it ISIS Rael. Israel. Israel. Israel is real. Is Israel real? I don't know. A lot of questions. Actually, right on the topic, ENGSJ says, if you really look at it, Earth, it's a dugout quarry. You can really see where these massive machines dug out in mined wherever they were mining. Do you have any links, ENGSJ? I've seen some of that stuff, and I was just about to say that Israel or any of these desert areas, they looked like they could have possibly been lush greenery, that there were just these energy weapons used, and all that's left is desert, as if the cities were turned to salt. Joseph Roy, 10th Planet Austin, Eddie Bravo in mission control. The jiu-jitsu position. Groupthink Skeptic says a swarm of autonomous solar-powered aquatic drones with mesh network radio communications could privately verify Antarctica. Can't argue there, Groupthink Skeptic. That's a good point. That's a good point. Finn Hagen says, but you can never leave. Well, okay, so are we really going to go into the occult? Because maybe you can never leave physically, but you can spiritually. Or if the true nature of the Earth are these concentric circles like the Antarctica description, the Atlantis description, perhaps you can leave and go to a bigger park. Or if it's like Norse cosmology, there are different levels and you can leave the enclosed park. Possibly even physically, but who knows, obviously. Heracles says, like the Grand Canyon. Yes, the Grand Canyon does look like it was either excavated or there was some type of weapons used. Real Offended says, that is 100% true, Bruce. The key is to be able to argue ways to develop logic and critical thinking. Truth Over Comfort retracted their message. Now I'm curious on what it was with a name like that. Kurtzvid says, I think we're basically only one generation from being free from the old crony corruption. Now here's something to think about. Is that what happens every reset? The common man becomes close to being free, and then there's a reset launched to prevent that so that the powers that be can maintain their grip of control. Joseph says, Richard, remember this numerical pattern, and the elites are in a process of a slow unaliving process. 13848, most important 5-number sequence of our time. Joseph, are you a time traveler? You kind of remind me of, what was that time traveler? John Titor, coming in with some cryptic comments that actually end up being true, a lot of them. Order 13848. It was an executive order. Director of National Intelligence. Interesting. Oh, Breek says, have you seen the Austin Whitsitt versus McGlobeface on Modern Day Debate from a few days ago? No, I haven't. I'm really behind on those. I'm still working on those. I got a lot of true crime podcast series in the works, so I am definitely behind. The next, I have a Zerka debate and a Whitsitt debate coming up next on the logical analyses. Jonas says, we need a blimp that doesn't get detected by radar. Yes. That would do it. ENGSJ, I think I did see that, The Greatest Lie Ever. I think I did see that one. Unless it's new. If it's old, I probably saw it. Mello says most flat earthers just say it's impossible for the umbra shadow from an eclipse, unable to question their beliefs. What are you talking about? Harmon Walker says, Mark Sargent, I feel in the last couple months flat earth is gaining momentum. I noticed DITRH is over 100,000. Wow. Finn says, remember, we have the best satanic world government that adrenochrome can buy. I don't know why I found that funny, but just the phrasing of that. I mean, it's so dark, but just the way that was phrased. Adrenochrome can buy. Wow. I mean, that's a bumper sticker right there if I've ever seen one. Mr. One-to-One, Alex Jones' music stream on Mindshock was epic. Shame it got taken down. How was that copyright? I don't remember why it got taken down, but I can do it again. I just don't know if it'll stay up. I don't think I didn't get a strike for that. I think it was just taken down. So I can probably stream that again. I think I streamed it on the Rock Fan as well. Jonas says, I got a feeling that George Bush and Charlie Manson is the same actor. Ted Kaczynski and Terrence McKenna sounds the same. Finn says Israel's a buffer state for the British fourth branch of government. America I haven't seen that theory yet. Alien Big Cat 23 says the great Bill Hicks is 100 times better than Alex Jones and not the same person at all, just so you know. Harmon Walker says, I have seen Charles Manson. At best, he is only 5'3". Alien Big Cat 23 says, small guy, smaller idea. Joseph says, I'm an employee of multiple companies that are not the safest to discuss. I'm not a government employee, but I frequently find myself entangled in those situations, i.e. spy balloon was property of U.S. Okay, I finally caught up with the chat here. So now we can watch this moon video. Let's see. There was one really good one. I don't know what's going on with the sound. Maybe I should mute the sound. But it looks like a pretty good fit. It looks like a pretty good fit on the overlay. Pretty close. Pretty close. What does everybody think? I mean, that's pretty close. And if so, let's say if the moon really is a globe and the Earth is a globe, what does this reflection mean? Because if all these continents plus more are all on one side of the globe, that would mean the globe would be way, way bigger. I mean, yeah. What do you think, Dave? Scott? I mean, these continents are lining up quite well to the reflection off the moon, and then apparently there's a whole bunch of other continents as well. I mean that is that is lining up quite well, I have to say. I mean, it is so close. It is so close. And what would all these outer lands be on the left side? So if our world is on the right side, all these other continents, all this other land is more than twice the size of the known continents. So what would be going on there? What would be going on there? Alien Big Cat 23, was that a serious question? You're just trolling in here. There are celestial bodies. Who says they're planets? If they're just projections or gases, I mean, who says they're planets that you can land on? And even if they were, that still wouldn't prove what you're standing on, right? The appeal to similarity logical fallacy. Just because the light bulbs could be globular doesn't mean the floor you're standing on is globular, right? It's pretty silly. Dave Scott says, personally, I'm leaning toward the moon as a reflection or projection. Why not both? Is it a projection that's also reflecting the Earth? Joseph says, JB is illegitimate president via 13848, hence why Trump immediately built the office of the president of the U.S. Wartime president, I'll bet financial deemed 9/12/18. Trump NG Blinken Palantir money. Mr. One-to-One says, that map shows what was mapped past Antarctica. And how was it mapped, though? And this map is really interesting, too, because you see there's nothing on the right of our known continents. So is there other land there also that wasn't mapped? Or, for whatever reason, is our little Earth pond exactly what is shown on the map right now? And that there's either ice or something else around all of this. So, for example, if you go away from the North Pole from Australia, you're going to hit nothing but ice, and there's nothing there. Whereas if you go away from the other direction, is that Africa there? Then you hit all those other continents. Massive, massive continents. Pinto Sack says, I want answers. We all want answers. Gotta ask the right questions, though. Asking the wrong questions won't get the right answers. ENGSJ says, Earth is an ancient and giant abandoned quarry. So that theory goes all the way back to the Anunnaki creating human genetic hybrids of some kind and using them as slaves to mine gold, etc. Now, ENGSJ, are you a flat earther? So if you're a flat earther, then you don't believe that Anunnaki aliens or whatever are from other planets, but they might be from other lands beyond the ice wall. Is that where you're at? and our particular area of the Earth is an abandoned quarry, but you can still go to other areas beyond the ice walls on our flat plane that aren't abandoned quarries? Or are you saying the entire realm of Earth, even beyond the walls of Antarctica, are all abandoned quarry? You seem to have done quite a bit of research, so I'm actually curious as to what you're going to say about that. Mello says, is it just a coincidence that stars look like waves are going over them? Lunar wave that has been filmed 15 times, bubbles in space, astronauts almost drowned in space. Bible says he separated the. I'm assuming you're going to say waters. Oh, yeah, waters from the waters above from the waters below. Mr. One to One says moon looks like a reflection of the sun's coverage. That's interesting, yes. So what's beyond the coverage? Joseph Roy says intersection of two planets at one time, and over centuries it is what the Thunbergs cite climate change. Two interloper different climates cause globalist hysteria. Is this your first time on Mindshock, Joseph Roy? You got some interesting comments. I don't remember seeing you before. But yes, all are welcome here, especially with, the more the more supposedly out there ideas, the better. The truth is stranger than fiction, as they say. Finn, the moon is an archon. Ephesians 6:12, the rulers of the darkness of the world, rulers translates as archons in Greek. Archon is a very interesting word. I did an etymological deep dive on that word when David Icke was using it. An archon is a chief magistrate in Athens or a presiding officer. Archaeology is concerned with the doctrine of origins, the origin of everything. Archaeology and then archaeology. I actually think, I can't find it right now, but there was an older variation of archon as well, older than the Greek ruler. Also, apparently, it's the masculine present participle, meaning to be first to rule. So, archon would not just be a ruler, but the very first ruler. And various Greek city-states were called archontes. Archontes. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Arkham Asylum in Batman is also a curiously titled name. Ark on the Ark as well. Noah's Ark, whatever. Was an Archon who was on the Ark. I mean, a lot of this stuff gets really crazy. Yeah, there was actually an older than Greek archon etymological study. I can't find it right now. In Gnosticism, archons are basically the builders of the physical universe. The archontics or the archontici were a Gnostic sect that existed in Palestine, Syria, and Armenia. The Archontics held that there were seven heavens ruled by the demiurge, surrounded by the archons, begotten by him, who are the jailers of the souls. In the eighth heaven dwells the supreme mother of light. The king or tyrant of the seventh heaven is the Sabaoth, the god of the Jews, who is the father of the devil. The devil, dwelling upon the earth, rebelled against his father and opposed him in all things, and by Eve begot Cain and Abel. Cain slew Abel in a quarrel about their sister, whom they both loved. They say, according to Epiphanius, that the soul is the food of the archons and powers without which they cannot live, because she is of the dew from above and gives them strength. When she has become imbued with knowledge, she ascends to the heaven and gives a defense before each power, and thus mounts beyond them to the upper mother and father of the all, whence she came down into this world. Interesting. Very, very interesting. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to archons. All right, let me catch up with the comments since I went into that mini deep dive on archons. So Finn is saying the moon itself is an archon? Kurt's vids with an interesting point here. What debunks the solar system is the concept of gravity. How could other planets undergo formation while resisting the gravity of the first body? There should only be one huge planet. Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually never even heard someone phrase it that way, but you got a point there. Joseph, thanks for your input. I'm going to join. However, I have to go to work. Any specific time of day or day of the week? No, I basically do the lives randomly. So, and not really. So, it might be one particular time on one day, different time another day. We might dial in a schedule though, maybe for the Logic Olympics, the Flat Earth Q&As, some of the other Q&As. Maybe it's different people demand things at different times. So there's certain, sometimes certain topics have momentum, so people kind of request those more, and I try to give the people what they want. Groupthink Skeptic said the planets are the intersections of nested electromagnetic toroidal fields that make up the ether and gravity. There's another theory on what planets are. I don't have the map up right now. Should I bring it up? I don't even remember where it is. That, let's say Mars or some of these other so called planets, they're actually lands beyond the ice wall that are reflecting above, so below. So if everything is reflecting everywhere, like Mars could be a different pond area with a different light source, and we're seeing it in the sky, but it's really far, incredibly far. That's another theory I saw that was interesting, and or they're all just projections. I don't know, that might not even be real. Finn says the moon doesn't reflect light, it emits it. ENGSJ says there was two slave classes made, one small and one a bit larger than us. You talking about the giants? Something else is here. Said I'm not a flat earther, but I do enjoy the info and deep lines of questioning. After all, we've been lied to about everything else, so why not this? Science is just a religion for the secular. Scientism is a religion. Science itself is a methodology. Scientism is pretending that the methodology was followed when it wasn't, and just substituting the methodology for blind faith in fallible and corrupt humans, with nothing but faith and fallacy to assist in that masquerade. Rune Thorson says, I recommend reading the book of the Sun by late Antonio Subirats. All right, so yeah, I mean, this was an interesting one. I actually got to wrap this up pretty soon. But yeah, the moon reflection is definitely interesting because we see here. I mean, it's also interesting to me that most of the extra land seems to be on the left side. Is there a reason for that? Because, I mean, I don't know. Again, this was just an assumption on my part. But if there were concentric rings of ice walls or whatever, if we were kind of in the middle, but it seems like it's offset, which is very curious. Because are there only all these other lands on the left side of what we're looking at and not on the right? It's just, I find that curious, find that very curious. Kurtzvids also says, another I came up with was the pull of the sun's gravity on all planets maintaining their concentric orbits. Must be an incredible force or tension to contain such masses. Therefore, anything lighter than the Earth should be pulled off the Earth on the day side facing the sun. The way that I've seen that explained is competing gravitational forces somehow magically keeping everything in balance while orbits still exist. I don't know. Don't ask me to back that up, but that was a so-called defense. One Neo here says, don't know who directly started the total enslavement agenda, but nevertheless, that is their goal. They destroyed all tribes and created their own that controls damn near everything. Jonas says, the truth is inside out and you've got reality on backwards. We live on a flat plane inside a sphere-shaped universe, not on a sphere inside a flat universe. Yeah, that's interesting. Justin says, Bruce, you need to watch Aweranon, The Hidden History of Flat Earth. Chapter 7 explains it all. I think I've seen, is that new? I saw his older one, that multi-hour video. If I remember correctly, I was not that impressed. Quite a few fallacies in it. Unless I'm thinking of someone else. Is he the anti-Tartaria guy? I don't remember. Alright, final questions here. Final questions on Flat Earth. We can go over one more thing regarding the so-called Flat Earth theory. Mel says, we need a true debate where both sides have to argue the other's point of view. Both sides are becoming closed-minded. Yes. Well, not just in a single issue, but in many issues. Groupthink Skeptic said, I'm holding Finn Ron's Antarctic Conquest in my hand. Picture of Stonington Island in Marguerite Bay shows an obvious pyramid in the BG. We forgot to talk about the pyramid in Alaska. Yeah, Antarctica truly is fascinating. It really is. And if we go by the cycles theory, that means certain temperature change. So it's kind of like a micro macro thing. The sun's electromagnetic path could be, so it might have a cycle or a track that it's currently on, but it also might have a different one where it might shift to the so-called outer lands. And then different continents become frozen or warmed as a result of changing cycle tracks of the sun, and possibly also the moon. So Antarctica might have been a tropical paradise at one point, and might be again. And the so-called New World here might turn all to ice. Africa might turn to ice. I mean, who knows if there are these cycles of everything. Anybody have a final topic, final question before we call it a day on the Flat Earth Q&A? Plenty more to come, of course. I'll be doing them at different times on different days just so more people can join in. Anybody have a particularly mind-shocking question? Rune says, Africa is already nice, though. It's a huge place. Yeah, and the other thing in terms of the cycle track of the sun changing, if there's also some kind of weapons being used that turn everything to stone, to sand, to salt, whatever. I mean, there's also the different cataclysm cycles as well. Fire, ice, water, etc., where the destructions or resets, natural or otherwise, let's not fall for false dichotomies. I mean, there could be natural destructions and also manufactured resets. Dave Scott says, when will we see the Craig video analysis with the new system? Yeah, right now I'm trying to figure this out. I don't know if it would be fair to change it mid-video, so I might actually finish the Craig with the original system and then do a modified video where it picks up from where we were developing the new system from the middle. So yeah, I gotta figure that out. Rune says, I got this notification 70 minutes into your stream. Yeah, that's weird. Groupthink Skeptic says, watch for cyber attacks on election day. Reality says, wow, that's an interesting name, Reality. Talking to ENGSJ, you didn't come from us, we were never this gullible. Authority-worshipping cultists and coincidence theorists are probably the most gullible types of people out there. I don't know about you, Reality. I mean, if you actually have everything backed up with the scientific method in mind and not appealing to faith and fallacy, then you would be exempt from that statement, of course. But yeah, next week I want to do the inaugural Logic Olympics maybe next week, and it'll be no prep, random topics thrown out, and anybody in the chat who can defend it non-fallaciously goes through to the next round. So that is on the agenda for next week. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us in another Flat Earth Q&A video. Seems a lot of people are interested in the topic. Dave Scott, ultimately, you didn't answer the question about the Craig video. Oh, you wanted to know when. Oh, with the new system. So I don't, the answer is I don't know. I might release it soon with the old system, and then it'll probably be another week or so to release it. I don't know if I'm going to redo the entire thing with the new system, because that would take a while. So we'll see. Rune asks, will you discuss Flat Earth with Oakley, Whitsitt, or DITRH? I'm sure that could be arranged for a Flat Earth Q&A, Mindshock. Not the biggest fan of Oakley. I mean, not the biggest fan of Oakley. Austin Whitsitt, sure. DITRH, is that Flat Earth Dave? Sure. And then Mark Sargent also. I need to set up an interview with Mark Sargent as well. You might be psychologically projecting their reality because you wouldn't know what other people's flat earth belief is based on if you don't know their amount of knowledge, or if you're too much of a narcissist to examine your own. Again, not saying you are or you aren't. Yeah, cool having you here, Joseph. It'll be interesting if we do more specific subtopics. Like, Papua New Guinea is indeed fascinating for a million different reasons, so if you're very familiar with that, that would be interesting to have your opinions there as well. So, thanks again, everybody, for joining us for another edition of the Mindshock podcast, where logic and reason rule the day. You can donate to our PayPal, help support Mindshock. Check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. If you're still not getting notifications, just like and comment on more videos. That seems to be the way the YouTube algorithm works. If it's still not working, just go to youtube.com/Mindshock. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.